long-term strategic perspective, and there's the immediate perspective. I think the medium term, we can leave that hanging in the middle. With regards to the immediate issues that we have, I would say that the way that the government has gone about this has left much to be desired. There's a whole lot more that we need to be doing in terms of responding very specifically to the problems that have been created over the last maybe 5-10 years. That has now been made worse by policy positions of this administration in the last year. We need to see a lot more action to bring the spiraling inflation under control. What we're seeing now is that the government is responding through monetary policy initiatives and instruments. It's not enough, as we can see. In the last 1.5 years, the CBN has hiked the MPR repeatedly. MPC meeting after MPC meeting have been increasing MPR. So it would seem as if it's not working. So I have said repeatedly in as many platforms and forums that I've had the opportunity to speak publicly, that what we need to see is thinking outside the box. We've got to get creative with our thinking. We've got to look for local solutions to a problem that is very local. Throwing MPC policy instruments at this problem will not work, because those instruments work in other parts of the world because they don't have the kind of problems that are driving the inflation we're seeing. Right? Insecurity is a major problem. Infrastructure problems and deficits is a huge problem as well. The lack of an efficient transportation system that can move goods, farm produce from farm gates to markets is a huge part of the problem. And these things are not going to be solved by increasing the MPR rate. It's not just going to happen. So I think that the government can do way more than what we're seeing now. And it looks as if, it's almost like a trial and error thing. They just try this. Okay, let's try this. The last MPC meeting, for example, I can see now that, speaking from an expert perspective, the asymmetric corridor around the MPR rate has been reversed. We now have a situation where the CBN is making it more punitive for banks to borrow from the CBN. In the past, just the very recent past, the asymmetric corridor above the MPR rate was just 100 basis points. Now they moved it to 500. This looks like an experiment to me. It's just like, oh, okay, we've tried everything else. We've increased rates repeatedly over the last 5 or 6 meetings. It's not working. Let's see what we can do with the asymmetric corridor. It's not working. So I think we need to see them do more, work in more in coordination and tandem between the fiscal and the monetary authorities and other parts of the government agencies. There's got to be more coordination to fix this problem.
I believe that as a country and as a government, we are not handling the main causes of the high cost of prices. If the Bureau of Statistics says that the cost of tomato, pepper, and all of that have gone on by 300%, the answer to that is not that you are going to stock a storage farm, because you can't even stock pepper, tomato, and so on. And you are not likely to be able to import them. The answer to that is to encourage the farmers to begin to plant. And you don't do this by asking everybody to plant tomato or onion or yam or maize or corn in their garden, because there are many Nigerians living in places that have no gardens. They live in face me, I face you so they don't even have the space. The answer to it is to encourage the farmers. First of all, they have to have large farms, bigger farms that you can tractorize or you can mechanize, bigger farms that you can use up dams to irrigate. And you can think of fertilizers, organic fertilizers. I think what government is doing is just a knee-jerk reaction. We have emptied all our reservoirs by February this year. Unless we do a temporary importation, perhaps of some of the food items, we'll be unable to solve the problem of high cost prices. I know that the government did promise sometimes last year they were going to acquire 150,000 hectares of land to plant maize. That has not been done. We are going to acquire 120,000 hectares of land to plant wheat. That has not been done. Unless we begin to produce or motivate our farmers to produce, all the solutions we are doing are just temporary, and they will not permanently bring the prices down.
Let's talk to this administration. They have done more than enough than the past government, where we observe bandits, herdsmen everywhere, and farmers are not being able to continue their farming in the facing what they should do in agriculture in the area of farming. But inceptions of this government is still tried, and then we could believe is very, very reduced. But at the same time, the prices of commodities that is higher is not into our making because of the fuel subsidy that was being removed. We believe that the high price of the commodities is affecting every sector. And we felt farmers too are not happy. And they look at the exchange rate too, because most of some of our needs are being imported. Train trips, most of it are being imported, and the exchange rate is not favorable. And coupled with our roads to the farmlands too. So all these ones bring the more inflation of which we are seeing. But I believe government is trying all what it could by introducing all these policies. And the policies are still better than the past government, where they will introduce anchor borrower, all those ones that are not working. And then we believe with time, with all the what we are hearing from other countries, is not true. It's not the best. The present government is trying all what they could, and then we believe it's just for a short time. What we are experiencing now, especially on the high rate of commodities, the products. But we believe with time, all what we are clamoring for the government is to increase the ratio of which being allocated to a Greek. If that one is being, there are increments there. Because all along we've been seeing 2% ratio of the total budget, which is not, it's not favorable, it's not called for. But if there is, at least if we should be able to have minimum of 10%, 8 to 10% of the total allocation of the federal budget being given to the agric, it will reduce all this inflation or what we are experiencing now. We believe that because what we are seeing is not enough, even for the states. And with all these World Bank assisted projects we are seeing in the area of agri, it's not enough. but let it be paramount that there is increment, there is minimum of 10% of federal budget given to agriculture. And that is area where the local roads, attention will be given to the seed, mechanization will now be introduced. So those are the things we believe we are clamoring to tell the government that they should do to reduce the price. And the fuel price of which is increasing too should come down, should. And where they think we should have a partnership in the area of machineries because not average farmers can can have the fund to bring all the total. And the people controlling the country today are smallholder farmers that were the ones feeding Nigerians. So if a smallholder farmers will have a place like a cluster areas, a conducive environment where government have provided to take all his or her produce there to be processed and tagged, then taking it out. Definitely there will be surplus and there won't be any inflation at all. So those are the areas we are telling the government to put in, and this government is trying all what they could to put it on the right track.
39 bills in details before making legislative recommendation, after which the House will take final decisions on them. Shetima, to close, Vice President.
Distributing 20 trucks to 36 states, irrespective of different sizes, different population, will not solve the problem. Secondly, we don't have enough data to identify the homes, to identify the people living there. So the distribution mechanism is faulty. You are distributing through governors, you are distributing through senators and House of Rep members to people you don't know where they live in. We don't have the database in this country. It will take us some time to do that. And when you treat all the states in spite of varying population and sizes equally, you are not tackling the problem. When you give Kano that has over 40 local government 20 trucks, and you give Bayelsa that has 8 local government 20 trucks, we are not solving the problem, even on a temporary basis. And we have to begin to look at permanent solutions. In my view, if we have been doing this in the last 6, 7 months, we won't be where we are. And the solution is for us to produce. We cannot rely on reservoir that we have emptied twice. We emptied late last year, we emptied early this year. So if we are going to fill up those places, then we have to import. And we know what our foreign exchange situation is like. So it is better to let the people know we will have some problem for a few months until we are able to produce. Those agri crops that he promised during his May 29th speech last year, we are waiting for them. The commodity boards that he promised, we are waiting for them. These are, in my view, very effective long-term solution that nobody is talking about. Using state governments or local governments or to distribute food that is inadequate and knowing about the Nigerian character and factor, some of those material will end up in the houses or the warehouses of the senators and the House of Rep. We saw what happened during the NSAS. We saw a lot of the food that were meant to have been given to the people. We saw that they were in those senators and House of Rep houses. So it is doing the same thing the same way and expecting different results. Somebody said that is lunacy. And we should get out of that. We should begin to establish a database that will make it possible. If you are thinking of the poorest of the poor, we should know where they are. If they say there are 132 million multidimensionally poor people, we should know where they are. If they say there are 88, 87 million very hungry people, we should know their location, so we will be able to deliver to their houses, not relying on people who themselves have a disconnect, either as governors or senators or House of Rep or chairmen, with the common people. So that is why we are having this problem. While we are thinking of temporary solution, we must be thinking of the permanent solution. In the south, there is rain. It hasn't been regular this year. In the north, there isn't much rain, but we have proven in northwest of this country that we can produce tomato, pepper, onion through irrigation. I don't know why we are not doing much of that. What has happened to the Fadama program dedicated to producing rice? What had happened to the rice experiments in Abia, in Anambra? What had happened to that? Why are we not motivating the other rice producers or the rice producers in Ilesha, Erimon, that area? Why are we not motivating the rice producers in Sokoto area? What had happened to the marriage between Lagos and Kebbi to produce rice? These are permanent solutions. And I think they are more reliable. Where the food is in the market, it will come down. But when the supply is inadequate and the demand is high, then there's going to be an increase, 300%, National Bureau of Statistics says. And I think these are the things to do.
Yes, food reserve is okay. Every country always have it. Look at what happened 3-4 years ago, about 3 years ago, the COVID, of which we never experienced. And this government was able to roll out some grains and what we have in the reserve. And that even helps us at the initial stage of the COVID, because we never experienced it, we never thought of it, we never really know how it did happen. They have to roll them out. So it's still better if government could still do more. The moribund ones too, if they could revive them, let us have reserve. It shouldn't be when there is a surplus or gluts that we finish everything we have. No, let there be a reserve. Where some years back we had of Ogun River Basin, all those where silos are. Let it be put on use. It's very, very good if it's been harmonized, if it's been put in shape for us to have a reserve. It helps a lot. And it's like you are having, when you don't pray for anything to happen, you could easily go there and have it. So government is doing all what they could. In fact, the reductions of the removal of the taxes on some items was being introduced by we farmers, because we believe that if government could do this, look at the about 3-4 months ago, the price of pepper was too high, too escalated. And we felt that, hey, if things will be going like this, by September, October, it's going to be more harder. So we have to call the attention of the Honorable Minister for Agri price. I mean, the taxes of which they have, it should be removed. And that was how government quickly intervened at that time and remove from the brown rice, from grains that you should not pay taxes, so that it will now relieve us of what, because we didn't have more than enough. We didn't have more than enough in the reserve. We are not saying the border should be open, but we are not saying the border should be open. But at the same time, if these steps are being taken, it will lower the tension of the price commodities in the market. So, and that was why government quickly intervened. And he did that. And that was why we are now seeing the prices of the commodities that are coming down gradually. So it's still better.
Maybe the attempt to encourage food imports in recent weeks by the reduction in import duties and tariffs. Maybe that is a measure that can have an impact, even though the impact may not be significant. You know, that's something that I think we may see some results from. But unfortunately, even that was put in place to take effect only, to be in effect for only a 150-day window. You know, so the question would be, what happens after the 150 days? You know, so if the prices come down to a certain extent, what happens after that? Would we see prices go back up, or is there a connection with maybe other policy initiatives that they expect would have kicked in that would ensure that even if they start charging the tariffs, the prices will stay down? You know, there is no clarity or coherence with that. Besides that, I honestly don't see anything that has been done that will work. The release of grains from the strategic reserves is a joke, in my opinion, with all due respect to whoever might be offended by that, because Nigeria has 220 million people. You know, like you said, the United Nations says maybe about 80 million of those people will be living in, you know, severe hunger, you know, in another 6 years. You know, 2030 might sound like it's very far away, but this is 2024. So it's 6 years. You know, we've got a population of around 130, maybe 140 million people living in extreme poverty, multidimensional poverty. What will a release of 60,000 metric tons or 40,000 metric tons of grains, whether it's rice or millet or, you know, maize, what would that do? You know, if you do the numbers, if you actually calculate and break down those numbers, you know, across the states, they are insignificant. I won't even call it a pin drop in an ocean. They're just completely insignificant. And that is even if those things actually do get to the people. More often than not, you know, in the distribution logistics, these things disappear. And you might only see trickles of it getting to the people that need them the most. So those types of things will not solve the problem. We need, like I've said and I've repeatedly said, we've got to be there has to be intellectual rigor. There has to be a lot of thinking going into this. It has to be very deliberate thinking. It has to be purposeful, and it must be creative. We have to get creative. We've got to look at local solutions, you know, to these problems. But right now, it looks as if the people that are running the economy are just checking the textbook to see what the textbook says. Try it. If that one doesn't work, you check the textbook again. It's not going to get us anywhere.
By statistical evaluation, Nigeria easily takes the richest country position in Africa. According to a database developed by World Economics, the official estimate for Nigeria's GDP was $1.116 trillion at the end of 2023 in purchasing power parity terms. An impressive figure, but the majority of the citizens are termed as poor. Let's just take a look at what Nigerians have to say about their current realities.
Over-dependent on foreign goods. We operate an importing economy, not exporting anything. So any country that this one happens, everything that happens within your country has to be determined by the value of other countries' currency. That's why everybody today talks of dollar, 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 dollar. And because our money because of that, our naira has lost its value. But one of the ways to do this is we have not had a leader that had the political will. Buhari tried it, he said it, but it remained till he left office for 8 years. It remained mere statement, political statement. Well, that's what they call currency swap. You know, currency swap is a way that can make this thing work. Most of the things we use today in Nigeria, most of our consuming goods, from your phone to your keys to your slippers to anything you use, most of them come from China. Unfortunately, again, you are still talking. You still bring in this good. You bring this in $2, but I mean from China. But you still have to convert your naira to dollar. Why? Why can't we go directly to yuan and use the currency of China directly? If we do that, our attention and the pressure on dollar will go down naturally. In a month, dollar can crash to 300 naira. But who will do it? Because they are afraid of America. America wants their dollar to keep on having relevance in the discussion of any economy of the world. So this is it. And that's why what is affecting petroleum. Petroleum will never come down until dollar has come down. Why? That's what they call it's a petrodollar. Petrodollar is an international market policy that has to do with trading in petroleum. When the commodity came in those days, America remained they were the highest consumers. In fact, America has no oil then, but the oil America will use for the next 5-6 years, they have had it in stock. You understand? Because of that, they insisted that any transaction dealing with oil must be, the mode of transaction must be oil, must be dollar. So that is what we still have till today. So we need to de-emphasize the usage of dollar. Let us go to another currency. Most of the things we are bringing is from China, for crying out loud. Why can't we use the currency of China to trade? And again, we must find a way of exporting something. It's a natural consequence. When you are not exporting anything, there is no how you can earn dollar. So the dollar you are using will be having negative effect on your foreign reserve. You understand? These are one of the problems that we have with our economy. Again, government too should come with policies that can work. You understand? Try to solve. You talk of palliatives. Palliative that government talk today are a kind of palliative that look like a child's play, that cannot impact on anybody's life. You give me 10,000 per month to do what? A 10,000 that cannot buy 3 rubber of beans. He cannot. Beans is over 3,000. Rice is over that. We talk about pepper earlier. Look at it. So the kind of policy that you could come with, something that can make education to work, agric, we should import, we should pump money, invest more in in agriculture, so that we can have a lot of produce. If you have it internal, what is wrong with garden egg? That you understand that it will be one will now be sold for like 200 naira. You see 4, they will say 4 is 1,000. In Nigeria of today, you see pepper made in Nigeria, you see cucumber, you see watermelon. All these things are beyond the reach of a common man. What food can a common man eat? Look at gari that anybody can produce. You understand? But if government is pushing more money into agriculture and they supervise it, it will be good. And again, if we have not been able to develop our economy to a standard, let us allow importation. Like banning of importation of rice is not a good move, because when you ban it, people are illegally moving it in. They spend a lot of money to bring it into Nigeria. For this reason, the price will go up. If you allow free movement or free importation of rice today, I can tell you the price will go down. But government is not doing that. You say don't bring in cloth. How many cloth can we make in Nigeria, in Aba or anywhere? You understand? Most of the textile companies in Nigeria, they are all folded up because there are no raw materials. And again, economy of Nigeria cannot peak for a long time, except one thing is done. All these things that we talk about, everything has to do with power. Once we don't have power working, what do? A lot of companies have left Nigeria. All the Dunlops of this world, the Michelin of this world, the Batas of this world, Berek batteries of those days. Some of those things are done in Nigeria. Where do you see them? Most of the companies are folded up. You can't see them because there is no how they can function. And in a matter of months, some other companies may go. In a situation whereby now you have come with a regime that is discriminating against the entire Nigeria, say band A, B, C, D, E. You are in Nigeria, I'm in Nigeria, we pay the same time, our children go to the same school, we enter the same bus, we spend the same currency. You will be having 20 to 24 hours life. Me, I will be having 4 because I'm on band E. There is no rationale for doing that. You just sit down somewhere in the comfort of your room and you balkanize the sharing of fuel. When Section 116 of the Electricity Act 2020 said there shall not be discrimination in the distribution of power to people. You understand? To the customers. So all these things, once power is not working, there is no how economy of Nigeria can peak. Like Lamido Sanusi the other day, sometimes ago, when he was to be screened at the Senate, they asked him what can he do to the economy. They were to screen him to become governor of Central Bank. He said he has seen the agenda of Yaradua, and he called it 8-point agenda, that if he were the president, that he would have reduced it to only 1-point agenda, which is power. If we get power right, my sister, things will work well. Because if it is to go like that, like every establishment, we have to rely on diesel. Diesel now a liter 1,200, 1,400, 1,500 naira. And how many liters will you use per day? This is the problem. And a factory, what they call pure water, sachet water factory depends on petroleum or diesel to power their engine. When they do this, it will have effect on the cost of production, which will make it to be very expensive. When you have a sachet of pure water now, sachet water to be sold for 15 naira today, where are we going? Everything will keep on increasing. If those things are not done, they should revamp the economy. The economy is dying. Until they revamp the economy, there is no amount of money they can call wages that will be satisfactory.
Well, it has the genesis has a very long story behind it, but we can also summarize it. So we have an economy that is not as productive as is possible. We could do a lot more than we are doing. So the industrialization side of things is very poor. We have a country with very poor infrastructure, including power, which is a critical driver of the economy. We have an economy that is import dependent. Even palm oil we import into this country. So it means that we will always require foreign exchange to chase after those our import appetite. It's also part of our problems. We have not diversified our economic base as we should have over the years. We're a monoproduct economy where at some point over 90% of our foreign exchange was coming from a single source, which was crude oil. So it's a myriad of problems which we can sum up into possibly leadership, and some will also argue even followership, because our leaders, after all, are from within us, the followers. So those could be part of the genesis of what we are facing today as an economy and as a people.
Since independence, Nigeria has had its fair share of leaders who arguably have done their best to help or cripple the country. The current president of Nigeria, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, on assumption of office on May 29, 2023, called out subsidy for the scam that it is and mercilessly kicked it out. It is still a topic hotly debated whether it has helped the economy or smashed it to the ground, with the inflation rate for the first quarter of 2024 smiling down from its impressive height of 31.60%.
What we can say is that removal of fuel subsidy, of course, aggravated the inflationary pressure. There is no doubt about that. It affected energy, it affected transportation, and so it aggravated the problem. Absolutely, yes. But there are several other, a cacophony of problems that aggregated to lead us in the direction where we have found ourselves today.
Nigerians are the problems of Nigeria economy, because Nigerians are not ready to uplift the economy. Number one. Number two, Nigerians only think of what the government can do for them. They don't think of what they can do for the government. They want good road. They are not ready to protect the one done by the government. Recently, I watched a clip wherein the road that was just fixed, is it Third Mainland Bridge or the other bridge there? And one of the Satans in Nigeria went there and be removing some of the fittings there. And police caught that boy. I was not in Lagos that time, but it was sent to a platform. I saw the clip. Such a person is one of the problems of Nigeria. What government spend money on, he went there and be destroying it. Do you think that person want Nigeria to be good? That is why I said Nigerians are the problems of Nigeria economy. Now, let me ask you one question. How many Nigerians did you see go to farm and be farming these days? Aside from people in Ajase, Ekiti, maybe partly in Edo State, Ilaje, Owo, Akoko, Ibilo, in Kwara, in Edo State, in Kogi State, and then Akoko Edo in Edo State there, and partly some of the northern part of the country.
But within our area, how many people do you see go to farm? None. But everybody wants to eat. That's why I said Nigerians are the problem of Nigeria. Now, when they say scarcity of fuel, within 2 minutes, they lock the filling station. The fuel they bought there for the past 3 weeks, they've not sold. They just had news. You lock it up. Nigerians are the problems of Nigeria. Now, then you heard that maybe fuel increase is coming. Private schools, they increase their tuition fee without even waiting for any further directive. Nigerians are a problem of Nigerians. So that is the problem. Now, to make sure Nigeria economy is standard or is improved or increased, the stakeholders in this country need to come together and have a formidable group that will make sure that the economy is growing. Now, in terms of agriculture, there must be a master plan for that to ensure that our agricultural sector is encouraged and is improved. Number two, if our agricultural sector is improved and standardized, you will discover that we have more exportation than importation. Then in that wise, our raw materials here will be exported, which will generate more income for us. Now, you discover these days that some of the food items we eat in this country, they are being smuggled in, like even spaghetti, even indomie, even rice. But if we are producing all those things in this country, do you think there's need to be smuggled them in? We will be exporting for the other part of the world to be eating, while we also consume our own here. But Nigerians here, they don't contribute towards it. We only believe on, I have money, contact them in Thailand, they bring rice to you here. I don't want to eat Kaduna rice. I like Thailand rice. Oh, I don't like Thailand rice. I like Indian rice. That is the problem. That's why I say Nigerians are the problem of Nigeria. Now, look at some of the office holders, political office holders, like the governors, senators, rep, assemblymen, chairmen. They too, they also contribute. Now, if you are opportune to go to a government house, whether the state house or the state government house, if you go there, if you see most of the items being cooked there, they are not from this country. I'm sorry to say that. They are not from this country. That is not an encouragement for our economy. The rice they cook in government house to take care of their visitor, which they cook every day, with due respect, they are not from this country. That is not encouraging. Now, if we believe in foreign items, do you want the foreigners to come and improve our economy? The answer is no. Then look at one thing that I also did a finding these days. In those days, children going to school from age of 10 to 18, after the close of work of the day, they will go and do some menial job just to get some little change. Some will go and be assisting people to carry block and those things. These days, Nigerians, they don't do it again. They don't. You won't be surprised that some of the people working in the sites, building sites, you discover that some of them, they are not even Nigerians. Go and do the finance. Some of them are from Togo, Niger, Cotonou, they are from there. So, does that one encourage our economy? The answer is no. Those ones, they come to this country, carry our money, and travel back to their country with our money. What we're supposed to have here. So there is need for awareness to be created by the government, and there is need for the government to also lay good examples. Let us be consuming what we are producing here, including clothes. Let's be buying them here. Instead of us to be going to China, Dubai, Sweden, and the rest, bringing clothes to this country that want to. There are some factories in this country that needed to be encouraged, that needed to be uplifted, so that they can be producing good products for us. Then we consume it here. Then issue of changing naira to dollar will not occur. It will encourage our economy, and the economy can grow. But then the other thing is that to some of the parents who prefer Uyibo institutions to our own here, I don't belong to that group. I don't belong to it. You see, there are a lot of universities in Nigeria. Standard universities are in Nigeria. whether public or private, there are standard advices. Let us encourage our children to be going to school here. Politicians who always pay tuition fee of their children for the next 4 years, and they will pay it so that the children will be in that school there. The year that has not come, you have paid the tuition fee. Please stop doing that. Let us there are institutions. If you are talking of brilliancy globally, I can tell you Nigerians are very, very brilliant.
Insecurity is a major issue which we have to deal with, and I'll give you a very personal story. I do farming, some farming with a good friend of mine, and for a couple of years now, we have been farming somewhere at Kogi State. There's a river basin there that has about 7,000 hectares of land where you can just come in and lease the land and farm. Beautiful land. So we've done that. We did that last year. But let me tell you what happened last year. On the day of the gubernatorial election in Kogi last year, herders marched cattle onto our cowpea farm and destroyed the farm. Thank God we still had rice before they entered the rice and destroyed rice. There was some intervention. They got arrested. Fortunately, nothing happened from the arrest. They were let go. So we still had some harvest from our rice to compensate us for massive losses we had from the cow. 2 weeks ago, my friend called me and said, look, I have to leave the farm. I have to abandon the farm after plowing 35 hectares of land for rice and maize this year. He had to leave. And he said he wasn't even going to be able to sleep overnight in that place because of attacks. So he left the farm. That is 35 hectares of land abandoned by a small farm. Now, there could be so many other farmers in that same category who have had to abandon their land, abandon their hard work, and move away because of insecurity. So insecurity remains a major factor, especially in many parts of Nigeria where a lot of farming is done. So it's something we must cure as part of finding solution to our problem. If you call up the curve of our exchange rates, just call up a curve of, say, over 6 months or 1 year, you will see that what we currently have would not be said to near stability. We saw how our price ramped up from about Naira and something, which we started the year with, went all the way to 1,900 within a period of maybe a little over 2 months. Then after that, it started to calm down. It came down all the way to 1,000 plus, 1,070 or thereabout. Before we could close our eyes, it started to go up from that 1,070 and it's somewhere around 1,500 as we speak. So there is still volatility in the exchange rate. It cannot be said that we have reached Uhuru as far as that is concerned. But there are also complexities around what you spoke about. There are sabotage, issues of sabotage. There are issues of normal market forces. Let me give you an example. People are coming from other countries to come and buy away our food. Why? Because when Naira depreciated, they found their own currency relatively strong. It did not depreciate at that rate that the Naira depreciated. So they found us cheap. Our products became cheap to them. So what did they do? They came into Nigeria, especially from our neighbors from the northern. They came into Nigeria and started buying up our food. It is cheap to them. And when they take those things away, definitely it affects supply in Nigeria. No doubt about that. But there are other complications too. We have not addressed issues of infrastructure constraint that might be affecting movement of food from centers of production to centers of consumption. The issues of rural roads, they are still lying there. The issue of the fact that transportation costs for evacuating this production from where they are produced to where they are consumed is still there. There's transportation cost that has gone up by virtue of, that went up by virtue of some of our energy, the changes in the energy space where cost of energy has gone up. So some of those problems are still there. Complicating that further is insecurity in some of the states that are noted for big farming. So it's a cocktail of many things. There is element of sabotage there. I would say Nigerians should continue to